Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Vengeance. Love your guts as well. Hello, Maeve. Hello, Darkbreaker. Good morning. Good afternoon. Or good evening, depending on where you are in the world today. Hello, Deadwalk. Good morning. This CCOH is going to be a little different because I have a lot of information and not a lot of time. Today, I need to be done a little early, like 12:30. I need to be done because I have to bring the Elder Spawn to an appointment. However, we're going to start in right away with our facts and everything about the Serpent and the Rainbow. Good morning, Charzy. How are you? We're going to discuss Voodoo, its practice, where it originated from, as well as deep dive into the Serpent and the Rainbow and go into Haitian culture. I figure we can't sit and discuss a movie and deep dive a movie that's based on true events without diving into their culture, without diving into the religious background of Voodoo. I think it's important, if we're going to talk about a culture, to understand and learn some of the behind the scenes stuff of that actual culture. So we will be discussing Voodoo, Haiti, Africa, because where Voodoo actually originates from. And we're going to discuss all of that today. So I've got a lot of information for you, jam-packed in like an hour and a half of time. So it's quite a bit of information. I am fabulous, Charzy. How are you? Now, I will say I am not an expert in Voodoo or Haitian culture. However, I did read. I have looked up some facts. I've just done my research, and I figured it'd be a great way to learn about a little bit of everything, because Voodoo has been, just like paganism and witchcraft, Voodoo has been sensationalized and utilized for propaganda and other bullshit. So I definitely want to get out there, why it started, what it does, and so forth and so on, to kind of get a understanding of Voodoo and its practice, right? Hello, Macabre. How are you? Good evils today, guys. Good evils. Let me check my evil today. That evil is beautiful. 539. If you want to check your evil over on YouTube, you can. Exclamation point evil in the chat. It'll tell you how evil you are today. Macabre. Oh my God, Macabre. 164%. That's great. That's good. That's good evil. Maeve, how are you? Good morning. Oh yes, I was 500 and change on Twitch and 355 on YouTube. Sweet. Nice. Oh, Deadwalk is not so good over on YouTube, but Vengeance 275. Nice. Hello, Fusa. Fusa is here to put her fur in my coffee. Yes, I know. But how is everybody's weekend? Good thing your Twitch evil is good, right? Weird, because I am Christian, but Christians can be evil. Furry coffee. No, I don't like fur in my coffee. Dougzilla, darling, how are you? No, I don't think I have. Hey, babe. Ooh, heavy is extra evil today. 501%. Yeah, I don't like fur in my coffee. I end up having fur in my coffee all the fucking time. I've got cats and dog, right? So let me tell you, somebody dips their fucking tail in my coffee. Usually Fusa. Not bad. Got a short story finished yesterday. Nice. We are going to be deep diving into the Serpent and the Rainbow if you are just joining us. We're also going to touch base on Voodoo, where it originated from, and Haitian culture as well. I think it's important to understand the whole thing. Hunda, how are you? But that's awesome, Macabre. I've gotten quite a bit done as well. And this week I'm going to be very busy because I'm helping my, no, you cannot dip your tail in my coffee. I already have enough tails in my coffee. Jesus Christ, foo. This week I'm going to be busy because I have to help the Elder Spawn pack and get things ready to move on Saturday. Saturday is going to be a busy day. I'll have to keep you guys up to date on whether we're going to be live on Sunday, because I may have to help do some more moving. But I will keep you guys in the know. I'll know Saturday, unfortunately. I'll know Saturday. So, but yes, I'm excited. All right, I think we're gonna dive in to CCOH as This should give me a good amount of time. But next weekend, if everything goes well, we'll be talking about 2007 REC, which is a great movie. We will be discussing that next weekend, as long as I'm not helping my spawn move. All right, we might as well dive on in.
You like scary movies and coffee.
The following show is based on research on horror movies and what goes on behind the scenes of your favorite scary movies. HORDE Entertainment or ReAnimateHer is not responsible for the macabre and horror that you are about to witness. Viewer discretion is advised.
Aha! Good morning, my daywalkers. I am ReAnimateHer, your queen of horror, and this is Coffee Chat of Horrors, the only horror show that takes her coffee like it's magic, and that is black. Today's screams come from the warped mind of Wes Craven in The Serpent and the Rainbow. So buckle up, my ghouls, as we traverse the realms that nightmares are made of. The Serpent and the Rainbow was released in 1988, directed by Wes Craven, and the writers are Wade Davis, Richard Maxwell, and Adam Rodman. This is based on true events that have happened during the time of Wade Davis, one of the writers, who wrote a book, who went to Haiti to investigate the zombie drug, right? The plot goes a little something like this. Anthropologist Dennis Allen travels to Haiti to investigate a mysterious drug that can make a person appear dead by suspending all vital signs. His journey leads him to the dangerous world of voodoo, political unrest, and supernatural horrors. Stop it, Foo. She keeps making air biscuits and friggin' pissing me off because her claws are getting stuck in my skin and in my shirt. Stop, Foo. All right. Yeah, the eldest one, Handar, is moving. She moved in with me for several months, and now she's moving out. The youngest one is still in BC. Okay, so before we dive into The Serpent and the Rainbow, I want to give you guys a little bit of background on the religion of Voodoo. So Voodoo originated with slaves who combined elements of their West African traditions and beliefs with the Roman Catholic that was imposed on them by their masters in the process called syncretism. A 1685 law forbade the practice of African religions and required all masters to Christianize their slaves within 8 days of their arrival. Slavery was condoned by the Catholic Church as a tool for converting Africans to morally upright Christians. Slaves forced to adopt Catholic rituals thus gave them double meanings, and in the process, many of their spirits became associated with Christian saints. If you've ever wondered why, you may have heard in some movies or in documentaries or wherever you may have heard, some of the saints are also in voodoo. This is the reason why, is because voodoo originated in Africa. And it wasn't until later on did in Africa people started to travel, well, obviously other ways, into the Caribbean, which turned it into Afro-Caribbean religion. And it landed in Haiti and in a few other places. Hello, Wickedy. Hello, Big Wild Blue. How are you? Loki's good, Don. Loki is good. Okay, so voodoo is sensationalized pop culture caricature of voodoo, an Afro-Caribbean religion that originated in Haiti, though followers can be found in Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, Brazil, and in the United States, as well as other places around the world. It has very little to do with so-called voodoo dolls and zombies. Now, we get a lot of these voodoo dolls and zombies from movies. Movies that started coming out a long time ago. I believe it was in the 1920s. I want to say the 1920s, where U.S. Marines were sent over to Haiti, or it was in the 1900s, and they were there for 20 years. And so the stories of voodoo came to North America, to westernized civilization via the Marines that were there. And you got to think about back in that time, back in that era, slavery in the United States, and a lot of where people originated from, right? So a lot of Hollywood back in the day sensationalized this voodoo practice, this religion, as evil or savages, right? Uncivilized. Meanwhile, there is a lot more to voodoo than what Hollywood has made it out to be. Now, back in the day, it is quite racist. Some of the movies that were made about the voodoo culture, like Voodoo Woman, quite a bit of it, and how they showcased what Black people in that culture did, which not every single one of them. This is my favorite time chat on YouTube. And how's it going? I'm doing good, Big Wild Blue. Hello, Moon. How are you? I sent my book to the publisher yesterday and he is going to review it. Nice. Good luck. Good luck. Hello, the Hood Scientist. How are you? If you are just joining us, we are deep diving into The Serpent and the Rainbow, a Wes Craven film from 1988 based on true events of Wade Davis. We're also diving into and touching a little bit of background on voodoo and the Haitian culture so you guys can get more of a well-rounded view of what this movie is based on. Hello, Reaper. How are you? Hi, Simon. Hi, serial killer. Okay, so voodoo refers to a whole assortment of cultural elements, personal creeds, practices, including an elaborate system of folk medicine practices, a system of ethics transmitted across generations, including proverbs, stories, songs, and folklore. Voodoo is more than a belief. It is a way of life. Now, voodoo teaches belief. Stop it. Voodoo teaches belief in a supreme being called Bondi. Now, I have a hard time pronouncing some of these words, so I did have to use Google Translate. An unknowable and uninvolved creator God. Voodoo believers worship many spirits called Loa, each one whom is responsible for a specific domain or part of life. So, for example, if you are a farmer, you may praise and offerings to the spirit of agriculture. And if you are suffering from unrequited love, and you may want to praise the goddess of love, and so forth and so on, right? In addition to helping or impeding human affairs, Loa can also manifest themselves by possessing the bodies of their worshippers. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well in Serpent and the Rainbow, because the cast and crew from the Serpent and the Rainbow were actually blessed in a voodoo blessing ceremony. And so we're going to talk about the possession of their bodies, as some of the cast and crew actually seen this happen. Which I thought is really cool to have that experience, because it wasn't just a movie on a set, because they did not film on a set. Craven brought his entire cast and crew of young people, newbies to the industry, to Haiti to film this. My friend is a Hugon. It is all very interesting learning about things, right? Definitely interesting. Hi, Chloe. Hey, great news. My granddaughter Ruby is 6 pounds. Yes, Chloe, that's awesome. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. I know we were praying for her and doing some juju. Hoonigan. I probably can't even pronounce it correctly. Hooligan? But we're going to make sure we have a couple things there. All right. So followers of voodoo also believe in a universal energy and a soul that can leave the body during dreams and the spirit possession. As you can know, in some other religions like paganism, astral projection is the flight of your soul, you leaving your body during a sleep session and traveling elsewhere. This belief system is not only in voodoo, but in many other religious practices. In Christian theology, spiritual possession is usually considered to be an act of evil, either Satan or some demonic entity trying to enter an unwilling human vessel. However, in voodoo, possession is desired by Loa. In a ceremony guided by a priest or priestess, the possession is considered a valuable first-hand spiritual experience and connection with the spirit world. And we do know in other cultures and other religions that astral projection, possession are very different compared to Christianity's belief system, right? Mischief Maker, thank you for your 58 friggin' months. Mwah. Thank you for your 58-month resub. I appreciate it. Thinner is a creepy movie. Stephen King. And that's where we were talking about voodoo, when voodoo really has little to do with voodoo dolls and zombies. Like I said, Hollywood sensationalized this religion just like it did with paganism and pagans and Wicca. They always sensationalize it to be something more than what it really is. And it's just the way it is. Hollywood is, right? Hello, Inked Bee. How are you? Welcome. Okay, so the voodoo in popular movies and fiction bears little resemblance to real voodoo beliefs and practices. Voodoo has become a prominent feature of the New Orleans tourism industry, with countless shops, tours, and exhibits, as well as museums capitalizing on that city's historic, and some experts say tenuous, connection to voodoo. Of course, stripping sacred objects and rituals out of their original context for commercial exploitation is nothing new, and we witness this in also Chinese-made and Native American-made dream catchers for sale at dollar stores. So this is nothing new, taking a religious item from a culture and creating money from that, whether it's real or not, utilizing it and sensationalizing it for your own benefit, especially to earn money. This is nothing new and has been happening since the start of time and religion. In the end, voodoo has a largely undeserved reputation as a sinister religion. Though some voodoo rituals involve animal sacrifices, it is hardly unique. Many other religious traditions involve animal bloodletting, including Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Hinduism. The irony is that voodoo's best known and most sensationalized features, including voodoo dolls and zombies, have little to do with the actual beliefs and practices of voodoo. This is why Hollywood loves to sensationalize things to make it a lot more than what it really is. And there are many religions that have done animal sacrifices and so forth and so on. Voodoo is not any evil than the Catholic religion, no different than a paganism, no different than Judaism. And I guess it's all depending on your belief and what you see as evil. Now, the Roman Catholics left for several decades following the revolution, allowing voodoo to become Haiti's dominant religion. So Haiti's dominant religion is voodoo. It is practiced there. It is a way of life. It is not just a religion. Now, this is where we're going to get to go and take a look at the trailer for The Serpent and the Rainbow. And we are going to talk more about Haiti, the culture, and Serpent and the Rainbow. It's why I can't buy a dream catcher. It doesn't feel right. No, if you do buy them, you buy them from the people who make them. That's what we do here. You can go to any band or any First Nations shop, and you can actually buy handmade, by their culture, dream catchers and other wonderful items that they have in their culture, right? Angel Heart was another movie that sticks with me. Hey, Gecko Chaser. Yeah, this is a good movie. This is a really great movie. And the more you know about it, the more it becomes a masterpiece for you. Well, for me, it did. But here we go. By the way, YouTube isn't going to hear the
From
trailer.
Wes Craven, director of A Nightmare on Elm Street, comes a story of the forbidden world between life and death.
There's a door to the mystical.
Somebody brought him back from the grave. And I want to know how they did it.
Death is not the end. I'll take your soul. Take these people's secrets and just walk away.
In the shadows of the imagination lies the ultimate nightmare.
Don't let them bury me. I'm not dead.
The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Okay, now you can hear me? There we go. It's really weird that YouTube was able to hear it. So fucking weird. Yeah, you hear me now. So YouTube was able to hear the trailer today, but last weekend they weren't able to hear the trailer. So weird. So weird. I didn't update OBS, so strange. Definitely strange. I'm going to have to take a look at OBS because before, you guys last Sunday couldn't hear the trailer. And if you check the VOD, there's no sound in the trailer. Yeah, Twitch can hear it. Twitch should be able to hear it just fine. But see, YouTube likes to mute things because of copyright. Trailers, even though they're on YouTube, anytime I play a trailer or do a trailer reaction, YouTube either mutes it or removes my monetization. So last weekend, we were discussing a movie and YouTube was not able to hear the trailer. You have issues with OBS all the time? Yeah, Charzy, OBS can be a pain in the ass. Have you tried Meld Studios? I'm in the process of using Meld, but I don't use it full time because it doesn't have scene collections for me. OBS does some funky shit, I agree. And a streamer life is definitely 100%. Because you're live and anything can happen when you're live. Anything. Meld Studios, look into it. MELD Studios. About an hour to cram in about, I know, I'm doing it. I'm going. Okay, so that is the trailer for The Serpent and the Rainbow. The film had a budget of $7 million and was a moderate box office success, earning over $19 million. This movie also made a star out of Wade Davis. There is a really good short documentary on The Serpent and the Rainbow on Shudder under Cursed Movies 2, Episode 4. So some of the information that I received today, like I'm going to tell you, comes from that documentary. Also, some other research and interviews that I have found. We will see, Wickety, we will see. Unless Spike Lee's sister auditioned for this film. There was quite a few people who auditioned for this film, actually. Quite a few people who auditioned. Now, this film was primarily filmed on location in Haiti. However, towards the ending of the movie, and I will tell you exactly where, this is when they head to the Dominican Republic. In Haiti, there was a lot of crazy shit going on in turmoil. You're probably not going to hear the coffin dance because it's not on this scene. So you probably won't see some of those channel points because it's not on this scene. Shocker is a great film. Great film, and I did a deep dive on that as well. It should be on my YouTube channel. Okay, so Bill Pullman's wife made a cameo as the blonde woman pushing a needle through a man's cheek. That was Bill Pullman's wife. Now, due to political turmoil in Haiti, including the fall of dictator Baby Doc and the chaos caused by his Tonton Macoute militia, the government could not guarantee the crew's safety. Despite this, the cast and crew were left unharmed. Now, I was watching that documentary on Cursed Films 2, and they were discussing the turmoil that was happening in Haiti. There was an uprising. Baby Doc fled. He was a horrible human and dictator. And the Haitian people were celebrating. And you do get to see this in the movie. Now, since he was running, his Tauntauns were running around. So this is a group of Tonton Macoute, which is, it was his militia. And they did his bidding. They were still running around causing chaos and death to tons of people in Haiti while Baby Doc was running. Now, the crew was there during this time. And like I said, the cast and crew were actually, before filming started, was brought and invited to a voodoo blessing ceremony. And that is where the entire cast and crew witnessed firsthand a voodoo ceremony and blessing. And now the Tonton militia never bothered the cast and crew, which I thought was pretty amazing for them not to bother them, because there's no protection there. There is nothing to help these people. The government wasn't even able to protect the cast and crew. And you got to remember, this is a bunch of young people. Wes Craven brought in a lot of young, new to Hollywood, but still getting their start in Hollywood, which it blows my mind. Some of the interviews that I listened to from some of the actors behind the scenes, the staff, was insane. Now, the remaining film was completed in the Dominican Republic after a violent uprising during a procession scene forced the crew to flee the country. Okay, so what that means. So if you've seen the movie The Serpent and the Rainbow, and no, I'm not talking about Tauntauns from like Star Wars. So there is a scene in this movie that you see a big, almost looks like Mother Mary, lots of people with torches that are on fire, and it's hundreds of people celebrating and dancing, and they're bringing down this lady that looks like Mother Mary. She's on like this pedestal thing, and they're carrying her down, right? There's that scene in the movie. That scene, right after that scene was filmed, there was a violent uprising. And before I dive into that, we're going to let this ad play here on Twitch. The pilgrimage scene. Yes, that big scene with hundreds and hundreds of Haitians. Yeah, we're going to dive into that after this ad break over on Twitch. Lament, you beautiful horror queen. How are you? There's going to be an ad starting in about 4 seconds over on Twitch. What'd you get for lunch? Spell check. I hate spell check, man. Autocorrect is the bane of my existence. Especially when I'm trying to talk to somebody on a professional level and my Saturday turns into splatter day, because it's how I speak on my phone, right? McDonald's, since I forgot my lunch at home. What from McDonald's, Macabre? I haven't had McDonald's in eons. Okay, let me just see here before. Oops. There should be an ad starting. So why that ad is there, we don't want to give out any good information. For the movie. I don't want anyone to miss anything, right? No church on Sundays. Double quarter pounder with cheese. You get onions and pickles on that? Do they put mustard and ketchup on it as well? Okay, there's that ad. We've got 1 minute and 6 seconds before that ad is done over on Twitch. Blew my mind was the documentary on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hello, Bada. Yeah, there's quite a few documentaries on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which one? There's quite a few, and they're all really great, and I would recommend every single one of them. And the book by Gunnar Hansen. Whopper, Burger King, nice. I used to love that. Some parts of it looked like they were Sainte Marie. You can blame Death in Paradise for that one. Yep, Gunnar Hansen's book, right from Leatherface's mouth. Now, there's quite a few really good documentaries on. I'm a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan. I've got a lot of information on TCM. It's one of my second favorite franchise ever, besides Friday the 13th. But yes, Gunnar Hansen has a book. Highly recommend reading it. Ad is done. Welcome back from that ad, guys. Okay, so you know how I said in that scene, the procession scene where they're carrying this lady, this statue that looks like Mother Mary, right? Okay. Now, Wes Craven hired anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 Haitian extras. However, 4,000 Haitians showed up. So that scene with all of those people that you see doing that whole procession, that big friggin' marching event that they were doing, dancing and all that jazz, those were all Haitian extras. There were 4,000 of them there. They only hired 15 to 2,000 people for that. Now, that spiraled into an intense real-life ritual when, again, 4,000 showed up. Rumors spread throughout the extra community there that they weren't being paid fairly and caused a lot of unrest. Some people were saying they were getting paid. Other people were saying they weren't getting paid. This one was saying they were getting 50 cents more, so forth and so on. That caused huge turmoil. The situation escalated when angry extras began throwing rocks at the production team. Producer David Ladd had to address the crowd from atop a bus. He was up there in his Banana Republic wear. By the way, everybody in that movie wore Banana Republic clothing because Banana Republic was the only kind of clothing company that had that kind of clothing at that time. So cast and crew wore Banana Republic. Anyways, he's up on this bus. He has a interpreter standing next to him, and he's trying to calm these people down. He's talking to them, and he sees their rocks in their hands, and they're like, nah, motherfucker, we want our money. So they started throwing these rocks. The entire cast and crew dropped everything they had, their cameras, everything, and ran. Some of them were able to flee into a church where they were able to lock the door. Another one of them actually ran into another house and was handing money out of his own pocket to these people, to these extras. A bus came and picked up the entire cast and crew. Everybody was then brought to the airport where a plane was literally running and ready for them to get on. They then landed in the Dominican. And I'll have a story about the Dominican Republic as well. That'll be a little bit later. Special effects artist David Leroy Anderson, who then later met Heather Langenkamp on a film that Wes Craven did. They're now married. He heard the rocks hitting the bus as they were evacuating the country. Like they were literally wrapped up and left because shit got real. They did not, I know it was under the assumption, a lot of people are under the assumption the reason why they had to flee Haiti was because of the government, and that's not true. Yes, the government was in turmoil in Haiti. Yes, people were happy. There was also some rebellion that the dictator, with his Tauntaun people. But that's not the reason why they fled Haiti. Such a scary situation. Yeah. And each of the cast and crew members actually had their own experiences while in Haiti. We have some information on that too. Bill Pullman also had something go on in Haiti that he did speak about in the Cursed Films episode 4, season 2 of Serpent and the Rainbow. And Americans aren't already well liked in Haiti? No. Well, no, because look at the Christian church, like the Catholic Church. Look what they did. There's a lot of history in Haiti. And you got to think about this. You go to Haiti during a time of government turmoil. The people are poor. You're going in there with all these fancy, film and equipment. And for a while there, the Haitian people were okay with the cast and crew. They welcomed them. They had brought them into their culture, their life. Now, Wade Davis already had friends in Haiti because he traveled there. Hi, Meteor. So Wade Davis already had, friends and a relationship with the Haitian people, where, he was able to introduce others to them because Wade Davis was actually there. This story that he wrote his book on is based upon his book. Obviously, they rewrote some stuff and added some things that aren't true. But yeah, during that time, the people took them in. Now, they decided not to pay them properly. And what do you think happens, right? What do you think happens? These people are already vulnerable. They're already desperate as a nation. Shit's going on. People are poor. They want to eat. They hear this one's getting more money than this one. That's 4,000 fucking people. 4,000 people. All you need is a handful for it to go wrong, right? How you doing, Meteor? So the film, the real life inspiration, this film is based on Wade Davis's book of the same name, though his research on zombification was already widely dismissed by scientists. The US government was already looking into the zombification many moons ago, like before Wade Davis, and the scientific community has already dismissed the whole zombification of Wade Davis. This movie actually made Wade Davis more popular among the people, because before he wasn't as popular among the people. The character of Christophe Durand was inspired by Clavius Narcisse. He was the real life case of a man who was allegedly turned into a zombie in 1962 using a toxin derived from the datura, forced to work on a plantation for 16 years before escaping. So this is based on some true events in Haiti. But the character Christophe that you see in this movie, that, Dennis, played by Bill Pullman, goes to the cemetery to meet this so-called zombie. His name is Christophe Durand in the movie, but in real life, it's Clavius Narcisse. And he is a real case of zombification, which is insane. Yeah, a lot of people have heard the story, especially after this movie came out. Pay everyone the same and fairly. Funny how the same conversation is going on now. Exactly, Charzy, exactly. Yeah, a lot of people have probably read about Clavius. The film's antagonist, Captain D'Argent Petrod, was loosely based on the Luckna Cambrone, the feared leader of the Tonton Macoute secret police. So this guy here, let's go back a little. I know I have his picture here. I wanted to slap his face. This guy here. Okay. Hi, 8-bit darling. This guy here is Captain D'Argent Petrod in the movie, but he is loosely based off of Luckna Cambrone, who was also the feared leader of the Tonton. Now, this guy did some horrendous things to the people, which are true. They did horrendous things to people, especially with some of their practices. Hey, Zach, how are you? But let's get back to our image here. All right, so Lucien Celine and Louis Mozart were inspired by Marcel Pierre, a voodoo priest who once attempted to sell a zombie potion to Wade Davis. So Wade Davis, again, was actually in Haiti. He was doing his research. He was there to research zombification powder, as well as check out and learn about the Haitian culture, and he did. And the actors that you see in the movie here are loosely based off of some real people that he met in his journey. Wade Davis helped also write The Serpent and the Rainbow. I am doing fabulous, 8-bit. How are you doing? We are discussing The Serpent and the Rainbow. We are discussing some of the behind the scenes information that happened in this film, which is quite a bit. A lot of information. So the original cut of this movie was 3 hours long, but Wes Craven felt it was too slow, so it was trimmed down to 98 minutes after a test screening. 3 hours long. Could you imagine sitting through The Serpent and the Rainbow for 3 hours? 3 hours, cut down to 98 minutes. So there is a surreal hallucination scene featuring a blue CGI rendering of a screaming Bill Pullman surrounded by serpents. Was included in the teaser trailer, but did not appear in the final cut or DVD release, and we're not exactly sure why it was not released. That would be a quite terrifying scene. You can find this scene on YouTube. Yeah. You can. I don't have it for you though. So in this movie, you get to see Bill Pullman work with spiders, a viper, jaguar, tarantulas, and Bill Pullman worked closely with live animals. There was a jaguar, beautiful kitty in this movie. There is a viper, and there is a tarantula. though all of them were raised in captivity and were relatively tame. So they were all real. None of that was fake. None of that was CGI or puppets. It was all real. Special effects artist David Leroy Anderson had to climb into an actual grave filled with human bones while filming a cemetery scene. So the cemetery that you see in The Serpent and the Rainbow is a real cemetery. It's a real Haitian cemetery. And there is a scene where Bill Pullman Dennis is in this grave. And he falls into this grave and there is a skeleton in there. Now that is a fake skeleton. However, David Leroy had to go in there after they excavated a hole in the ground. He had to go in there and he sees all these things that look like stone. They're not stone. They were bones. They were in a real cemetery, So they dug down, and it wasn't that deep because they did not bury their dead deep, right? So he's in there and he is trying to put his fake skeletons in there, and he realizes there's skulls and other bones surrounding him in that hole. It hit him at that point in time what he was doing, which that's kind of creepy in itself. And I'm surprised like the Haitian people did not get upset about the disturbance of their dead, you know? Now in Cursed Films Season 2, Episode 4, you actually hear David Leroy speak about that. He sat there and he gave his experience creating this film. I would highly recommend checking out Cursed Films 2, Episode 4. It is on Shudder. I don't believe you can watch it anywhere else. They interview the majority. Bill Pullman's in there. Almost everybody is in there except for Wes Craven, obviously. And they speak to him. Wes Craven's son is in that interview as well. And Wes Craven's son was with him in Haiti when everything was going down. There is a story or so that I'm going to share with you that there's no real facts to back it up. It's just a story coming from Wes Craven's son. So we'll talk about that as well. Now, you guys remember the altar scene down in the ground in The Serpent and the Rainbow? There was some skulls on there and other supposed voodoo stuff. Anyways, the crew hired a local woman to gather up bones because they're like, yeah, we need bones. You know, they weren't expecting human bones. They were expecting animal bones and things like that. Well, the local woman that they hired basically robbed a whole bunch of graves and turned them into the cast and crew. And I guess the cast and crew found out later on that those were real bones that this woman literally stole from graves. Yeah. It was a local woman. Yeah, later on finding that out. There's also a scene where they had to actually, now this is coming from Wes Craven's son. There's a scene in the graveyard and they needed to move a headstone because it was in the way. So they picked up this headstone, put it on a dolly, shifted it down a little bit. Wes had them take a picture of the angle and everything of the headstone where it was, because they had to pick it up and move it. And they had to move it back after the scene was done. That's like desecration of a sacred area. Could you imagine doing that in an American cemetery? I'm going to go film something here, so I'm just going to fucking move your headstone and move it back because I took a picture of it? Like, what the fuck? Right? No wonder why the film was so cursed. In a shed, maybe? Well, hey, Texas. But, I mean, you literally ripped up somebody's headstone, moved it so you can film in that position. WTF. Like, talk about fucking privilege. You know what I mean? Talk about fucking privilege. You go to a third world country and you do your shit. And you don't think about the effects that it's going to have on the Haitian culture, on the Haitian people. The shit that they did, yeah. It's kind of crazy. I would highly recommend watching that episode of Cursed Films. Yeah, I was listening to it and I'm like, holy shit, what privilege. Like, really, what privilege you had to go there and fuck with their shit. The fact that they felt they had the right is ridiculous. Exactly. And we're hearing this from people who were there. Wes Craven's son actually tells that story. It's not like I was pulling this off of IMDb, because IMDb doesn't have any of this information that I'm telling you. This is all coming from those interviews with the people of the Serpent and the Rainbow, from cast and crew, which I just thought was insane. One of the writers, Richard Maxwell, he had a full-on nervous breakdown during the rewrite process. He honestly thought that he was cursed by voodoo. He was there and he immersed himself as a writer. He immersed himself into voodoo culture, learning everything that he could learn. He went into their ceremonies. He was welcomed into their ceremonies. Not like he forced himself in there, but he was a part of it. And he believed that he was cursed, and was later on found standing naked outside of Wes Craven's door, smoking a cigarette in a trance-like state. David Ladd, the producer, had to put him on the next plane to Miami to send him home to his wife, because he totally lost it. He wasn't the only one on set that had shit happen to them. Literally just stumbled on this feed. Subscribe. Thank you, Anderson Slade. I appreciate the follow. We love discussing horror here. I love deep dives. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, I am live here on YouTube and on Twitch, and we do exactly this. I dive into some of our favorite scary movies. Paul Schultz, thank you for your 56-month resub. I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, today we're talking about The Serpent and the Rainbow. I don't pull my stuff from IMDb. I watch interviews. I read interviews from like Fangoria magazine, etc., to get my facts from movies, because anybody can put anything on IMDb. So I don't just trust IMDb. So I watch a lot of different things, and I pull my information from different areas, and I research my facts before spewing them out on here, because I'd rather give you real information instead of clickbait bullshit. There's a lot of clickbait bullshit on YouTube, and a lot of regurgitated shit that isn't true, that people pull from IMDb, because IMDb is filled with people who can edit and add whatever the hell they want to a film on IMDb. There's no, you just have to have an account, and you can edit and add your own shit to the trivia section. So I don't do that. I don't go by that, because it's never really that good. How are you feeling? How is everybody doing so far? And do it with AI voices too. Yeah. Oh God, I fucking hate that. If you have an AI anything in your shit, I unsubscribe so quickly. I do not watch. I want nothing to do with that. AI voices don't have emotion behind it, and you can tell right away when it's AI. Some really big true crime channels are AI voiced, and I get rid of that real fast, because I watch a lot of true crime. 54 Evil Zombie, how are you doing today? All right. Bill Pullman, who also participated in a voodoo ceremony, had a very unsettling experience. He speaks about his experience in the Cursed Films documentary. So Bill Pullman, and like I said, cast and crew were a part of this voodoo ceremony, and you know they immersed themselves in this. And Bill had a horrible dream of sorts. He thought it was too real. So he went to bed, and he felt like he was flying through the air, and that he was in, he believes, Africa. And there was different groups of people together, different colored people, all colors, right? And he didn't go into in depth of what it was, but it was very unsettling for him, and he couldn't wait to leave Haiti. Now, this is also Bill Pullman's first horror film, because before this film, he was in Spaceballs, right? Lucid Dreaming, woke up in a cold sweat after a few of them. Yep, it happens. It happens. Well, you think about it. You're in, good, it's a little warmer. Same here, Zombie. It's a little warmer today as well. So you think about this. The human psyche, the human mind. You're in a country where you know there's no protection. You know that their culture is different. They practice this thing called voodoo. You were raised in westernized culture to see that voodoo is not a good practice. I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm just saying this is your mind now. Think about Bill Pullman and the rest of the cast and crew. They're in a country that they know nothing about. They are surrounded by people They know nothing about their culture, and they're learning about their culture a crash course. And you live in a westernized culture where you are taught that anything outside of Christianity is evil. And so movies portrayed voodoo as a Satanist practice. It's a violent practice, yada, yada, yada. So you go to this country with these mindsets, and then you become a part and you immerse yourself into this culture to learn more about this culture, to try to represent them better on screen. That's got to play with your brain a little bit if you think about it, right? Richard Maxwell, full on nervous breakdown. You don't even see him in the documentary about this. He drank too much Swartz in this movie, right? Other cast and crew have said that they had hallucinations. Other people had other issues. When Bill Pullman told his experience to some of the cast and crew, and David Ladd asked him, did you drink any? Did you smoke anything? Did you drink anything? You know, because Bill Pullman also had his experience, which was very unsettling to him. Like, he wanted to leave. The other people in the production team, same thing. They all had their own experience. But for the most part, a lot of them said that this experience was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I would have to say, yeah, I mean, if you're, you know, you didn't film this on a movie set. You filmed this in a real culture under turmoil and desperate times. So it would be a very interesting experience to definitely have, I think. But for voodoo to work, one has to believe. Yes, one has to believe voodoo to work. But if you think about it, though, you think about it, in the 80s when they went to Haiti, the already fed or drip fed information about voodoo to the American people, right? It's just like that movie Paul, the movie Paul with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, where they say that the alien image was drip fed to the American people, and that's why you automatically all believe that the alien has like this odd shaped fucking head and these big eyes and they're gray. Think about that as voodoo. When you grew up in that time and you watched movies, Voodoo Woman is a prime example. In a lot of these Hollywood movies from back in the day, voodoo was looked at as, and they portrayed voodoo as a satanic, evil religion. So you got to think about that's also in your back of your head when you're there, because you really don't know anything about Haiti and you don't know anything about their people. You don't know anything about their culture. You're just dropped there because you're filming a movie. There was no education beforehand, right? I live in New Orleans. The voodoo here is fairly mundane. Yeah, there's a lot of voodoo in New Orleans. Again, we went over voodoo, where voodoo originated from in Africa, and then how it was brought over to the United States, also brought over to other areas like the Caribbean, Haiti, Brazil, and other places. Don't think we would see anyone make a movie like this. No, you would not, Charzy, not at all. No, it would be very disrespectful. If voodoo worked, Haiti would be the richest nation on earth. It's just like any religion, though, right? It's a religion. And it's just like any religion. You got the big three, right? Christianity, Judaism, Muslim. That's the big three. And they decide who says what and what's good and what's evil. The Catholic Church was one of the biggest people, the biggest group to condone slavery, to invade other countries, to push their Catholic religion on them. So you have to believe in it, right? In order for it to affect you in any way, shape, or form. Same thing with Catholic. You have to believe in the Catholic religion, the Catholic deities, and saints, etc., etc. You're doing pretty good. That's awesome. Yeah, the curiosity creates the lore. Exactly, Zombie. I miss living in New Orleans so badly. I forgot the name of the voodoo lady in New Orleans. Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau. Anderson Slade lives in New Orleans, and they just said Marie Laveau. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Didn't they use a position from a plant to make the drug? No. I'll tell you how. I have the recipe for their powder. Okay, so the I can't pronounce the friggin' powder. But anyways, this powder comes from the fugu and blowfish. It's also mixed with other herbs and other plants as well as human remains. So in Haiti, when they create this, in the movie, you see the voodoo priest. You see the voodoo priest collect all of the things needed to create this zombie powder. And when they did that, they killed a blowfish, and they did their thing on the blowfish. There's a whole thing about it in the movie that is what they actually do. And they utilize other plants and herbs in this concoction, as well as human remains. And then they mix it all together and hand it to you in like a Grey Poupon kind of bottle. Somebody did try to sell Wade Davis the zombification powder back in Haiti, and that's why it's in this movie, and why this movie is about that, because of some of Wade Davis's experiences in Haiti when he went. They are definitely still pushing. Might be some. Yes, there is a toad venom in there as well. There is a toad that they removed. This toad is pretty big, and it has this thing in its glands, and they extract it from the toad. And you see it in the movie. Like, they go through the whole setup of how the powder is made, the steps that they do. It takes 24 hours for them to create this powder. So they get it from the frog, they extract that shit from the frog, they grab a couple of things from other plants and herbs, put that together along with the poison from the blowfish. They put that together, and then they do the whole human remains thing. They dig it, they put it into the grave for 24 hours, yada, yada, yada. And then they pull it out, and that's what you get. Mama D was the voodoo high priestess in New Orleans back when I lived there. She was a really amazing lady and was at most school board meetings advocating for the children. Nice. Wasn't the Black Snake Moan movie in New Orleans? I'm not too sure. But we can look that up, Mississippi Queen. Yeah, we can definitely look that up if you want. We can check that out. I can do a whole thing on voodoo. I just have to research it first, right? Because I don't practice it. And I did only get you guys just a touch of what voodoo is, where it came from, and how it was practiced. All right, so let's see. Remember I told you that they fled Haiti and were all dropped off in the Dominican Republic? This came from Wade Davis himself, from the Cursed Films episode, season 2, episode 4. According to Wade Davis, upon arrival in the Dominican Republic, the crew discovered that their luggage had been stolen. Wade Davis later found local police laughing and trying on their clothes. After politely asking the police in their language, he managed to recover the missing belongings. We do have an ad that's happening, and I'll stop right here before we dive any further. A lot of great information in this. But we have a few more things. Yes, we do. A few more things. I'm going to have some water while we wait. A minute and counting, and then the ad break will be over on Twitch. But what do you guys like so far? Are you enjoying the information that I have received? Remy LeBeau was an introduction to Cajun. Since his introduction, I have looked into it and fell in love with Creole and Cajun life. Who says you can't learn shit from comic books? Oh, I think I need to have the mini Reese's Pieces here as well. I'm loving this deep dive. I didn't know any of this. I'm glad you're loving it, Gecko. I loved going into it too. It took me about a week. It took me about a week to get the Mother effing Jones. I dropped my Reese's. 5-second rule, right? I always find behind the scenes information fascinating. Loving this intro. Thank you. What were you saying? The skeleton key was another good voodoo. Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, from that ad. What was the name of Karen Black where she got chased by a voodoo doll that scared me? Oh my God. I cannot remember the name of it. Shit. I can't remember the name of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Fur Candy. Yeah, you got Trilogy of Terror. That is it. And it wasn't a voodoo doll. It was, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember the name of what it was, but it had a belt, a gold chain around it, right? And if that gold chain broke, the little bastard came to life. Trilogy of Terror. That is it. I knew it had terror. Okay. So, the Zuni fetish doll. You got that right, Anderson. I know someone who smoked the frog stuff and said he was blind for about 20 minutes and he said he wouldn't do it again. Yeah. It was a Zuni fetish doll. Yes, Lament. No worries, Chloe. You hated that doll? That doll was an asshole. Okay. So, remember I was starting off and letting you know that the cast and crew, they couldn't find their luggage. Their luggage was gone? Okay. According to Wade Davis, he went around the plane and he went through the cargo hold area and he saw a truck that had all the luggage on it. And the Dominican police were sitting there laughing and going through their luggage. Supposedly, Wade Davis spoke to them and said to, you know, very politely to them to please give them their clothes and their missing belongings. And supposedly the police said, yeah, sure, whatever, here you go. And I say that with a grain of salt because it's secondhand coming from a person who was there. Did their stuff get stolen by the Dominican police? There's a big fucking possibility. Who knows? You're in a whole other land, a whole other culture. Bring in your American privilege over. You know what I mean? Just like they did in Haiti. All right. So there's some cultural influences that was inspired by voodoo itself and the band Godsmack. Do you guys know the band Godsmack? They got inspired by Serpent and the Rainbow and wrote the song Voodoo supposedly while watching this movie. My Zuni fetish doll was made out of mahogany. I have one too, and brought mine in the Dominican Republic. When I brought it back here, the fucking thing then dried out and cracked. We have one too, cereal that was handmade in wood. It also cracked. Hello, what up, John? How are you? You've never heard of Godsmack? Godsmack? What? Yeah, go check it out. If they did, they are lucky they got it back. Yeah, according to them, that this is what happened. Again, this is information that I'm pulling from Hello Lurk, pulling from that documentary that I watched on Shudder. I know someone who smoked the frog. Yeah, okay, I read that already. How you doing? What up? We are coming towards the end of CCOH. We're coming to the end of the information here that I have for you. So listen to the song Voodoo by Godsmack. According to that, the band reportedly wrote the song while watching the movie together. Voodoo is still used annually at Carowinds Amusement Park during its Halloween event. So that's a little bit of information for you as there for some cultural influence. New Orleans has a huge voodoo presence as well. And like I said, a lot of the voodoo culture that was brought over has been transformed. In real voodoo practice, they do not practice with voodoo dolls. They also do not do zombification. But as this, just like any religion progresses and evolves, people add things to it to make it more sensationalized, right? And that's what they do with everything. They have a voodoo museum. Yeah. And it's really big there because of slavery. Again, voodoo was created and originated in Africa. And when the Roman Catholics imposed their religion onto them by their masters, which was called the syncretism. And in 1685, there was a law that forbade the practice of African religions. And so they were able to, the African people that were brought over were able to utilize the Catholic religion and voodoo practice and basically brought it together. And that is how you got voodoo in the United States, especially in New Orleans, right? Probably the largest presence in the States is New Orleans. Yeah. There's a lot of really good information on voodoo. It's where it originated from, the atrocities that the Catholic Church did. Lots of great information out there if you actually take the time to research it. Voodoo is very evil there in New Orleans. See, voodoo isn't evil. Voodoo is just like being Catholic or being Jewish. Hollywood sensationalized it for being evil. Hollywood has been known to turn a lot of religions into evil things like paganism. My religion that I was born and raised in is I am pagan. My whole family is pagan. And we have been depicted as an evil, satanic group of people who worship the devil. We don't even believe in the Christianity made up devil. You know what I mean? I know firsthand what it's like to be discriminated against because of your religion, because of fucking Hollywood and what Hollywood has done. So don't always believe everything you see on television, people. You heathens. Yes, we are. We're heathens. Weird, a little factoid. Most of the voodoo practitioners in New Orleans who I know consider themselves devout Catholics. Well, the majority of voodoo in the United States is Roman Catholic and voodoo mixed together. Because, again, when the African people were brought over as slaves, it was drilled into them in 1685. They had 8 days. Masters had 8 days to turn their African slaves into Christians, into Catholics. And that is why you get the mixture of Catholic and voodoo in the United States, right? Wicca is a newer religion, is not as old as paganism is. It's based on very similar practices of paganism. Aleister Crowley, and there was one other person that was involved with creating Wicca. Yeah. That's a whole other CCOH. But voodoo itself is not evil. Voodoo is a practiced religion, and it deserves to be respected just like every other religion that's out there. But again, when we don't know about a religion and all we see is what TV tells us, we are going to believe that that is evil or that is bad. And it's not at all. I would suggest to educate yourselves on the practice of voodoo, where it comes from, because there's a lot of information. A lot of this information I did not know until I started researching voodoo, and the elements of voodoo and how it has morphed into what we have now as voodoo in the United States. It's pretty good. And the first half of this CCOH, I deep dived into voodoo. And one of the reasons why I deep dived into voodoo was back in the day, I did a CCOH on child's play and the Damballa chant that was used in the child's play horror movie. Voodoo, right? Good morning, Aaron. How are you? No religion is evil per se, but there are evil people who practice religion. Exactly. Just like in every bits of life, you have your people and then you have your extreme people, right? Same thing with politics. You have your people and then you have your extreme people on both sides. Like anything in life. You have your good people and then you have your extremists. Okay, so my final thoughts on Serpent and the Rainbow. I have found The Serpent and the Rainbow to be an incredible film that combines supernatural horror with real life history and folklore. Now that I know all these behind the scenes details, I appreciate the movie even more. The practical effects were phenomenal and the eerie atmosphere still holds up today. I tell you to go out and watch this movie. I give it a 4 out of 5 limbs. It is something that once you watch it, it will stick with you, especially scenes of being in a coffin and buried alive. You have your Mr. Rogers and you have your Ed Gein. Exactly, right? You like the undead bride in it? Yeah, she's pretty cool. Now, our closing intro and closing out, this wraps up this week's Coffee Chat of Horrors. I thank you for joining me as we explored the Serpent and the Rainbow. Next Sunday, we will be diving into the 2007 found footage horror film Wreck, a terrifying masterpiece that redefined the zombie genre. Grab your coffee and prepare for the scares. Until then, stay spooky. Captain Kangaroo. I love Captain Kangaroo. You love Wreck? Yeah, Wreck is great. Of course. Thank you for being here, Tarzi. I do appreciate it. The coffin scenes were ones that stuck with me. Can you imagine being buried alive? So back in the day in North American culture, okay, so let's talk about being buried alive and how big it was. Back in the day, being buried alive was a real thing in our culture in North America. Okay, so getting nailed to the tree stump is what stuck to me. Yeah. So story time. And back in the day when people died and they would bury them, a lot of people were buried alive. So what did they start doing? They started tying a string, well, more than a string, it's a little thicker than a string, to the toe or a finger of the person who was buried, and up through the ground, there was a bell attached to this string or cord, whatever you want to call it. And in North America, they did it as well, Serial, around the world, really. And if someone was alive, they'd ring that bell. And the person, the graveyard tender who was around, would hear the bell and unbury the people that were buried alive. There are so many stories in lore that tell you about people being buried alive, and the groundskeeper or somebody in the church, if the cemetery was in the church, could hear a faint bell. Cemetery bells. Yes, exactly what up, John. No thanks. I'm already claustrophobic. I have a coffin, and I have another coffin being made for me because I like being in my coffin. You only have so long before you run out of air. 100% you do. Wreck is a great movie. There was a creepy buried alive scene in Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell movie. Since they didn't know how to feel for a pulse. Many people were buried alive, guys, back in the day. I would totally pull the bells all day and run just for fun. That would be freaky. Could you imagine just sitting here? Next thing you know, it's dead silence in the middle of the night and you hear ding, 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 ding. I'm freaked out by the concept of in-ground burial in general because I grew up in New Orleans. Our cemeteries are above ground and to prevent... Exactly, because what happened in New Orleans? It flooded and the fucking bodies were coming up. You have all 4 Wreck movies? Nice, Dark. We will be watching as long as I don't have to move. As long as I can get my eldest one moved in on one day, there will be Coffee Chat of Horrors next Sunday. I will keep you guys updated in the Discord and on social media and on YouTube, whether or not I will be streaming Sunday morning, just because I have to help her move Saturday on March 1st. But I won't know that until Saturday. So I do apologize if it's last minute. Unfortunately, that's life. C'est la vie, right? We will be watching Wreck 2007 in the Discord. So if you're a part of the Discord or want to get a part of the Discord, click on the link, join us. We'll give you the movie roll if you want it, and we will watch Wreck 2007 together. Ra, have you done a deep dive on cat people? No, I have not. Do you want me to do one on cat people? Let me write this down. I have a frig ton of structured CCOHs coming. Like, we're going to do a bunch of movies. However, we're also going to deep dive directors because, again, a lot of us know, we know the directors, but we don't know how they get started or much about them. So I want to bring out more information about directors. Mario Bava, Dario Argento, Wes Craven, all of them. And so Reaper and I have already started working on this. Hello, M. Horn. How are you? Why not just take next Sunday off anyways? Because you're going to be tired and hurting? Oh, we'll see. We'll see. I always wondered if sleeping in a coffin is good or a bad thing. It depends on how comfy your coffin is. Hello, Diella. Don't watch Quarantine. It is. Quarantine is the American remake of Wreck. Yeah, I know. I own that one too. Mine is Jason Goes to Hell. I love hearing about Jason's history. Cereal. Double fucking fingers for you. Yes, we have. Yes, we have. But I will definitely take recommendations. If you guys want to deep dive into something, please let me know. I don't really like doing mainstream horror just because everybody and their mother does mainstream horror. I don't want to do that. I like to do underrated films, indie films, and films that are not as known as like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Hellraiser, even though I fucking love them. Exactly, Pixie. Exactly. Exactly. Jason Goes to Hell is what we don't like that. I don't think I could sleep in a coffin while alive. I have in mine. I have a second one being made for me. I can't wait for it to be done. All right, guys, I got to go to my ending because I'm going to have to run here. Thank you all so much for joining me on this Sunday for Coffee Chat of Horrors deep dive into Wes Craven's 1988 The Serpent and the Rainbow. If you missed any or all of this live, you can check it out over on YouTube. The VOD will be up. Later today, there will be chapters on the VOD so you can like get through the bullshit of me just chatting. And next Sunday, as long as everything goes well, we will be deep diving into Wreck from 2007. I appreciate you all being here, taking the time out of your busy weekend to come here, hang out with me wherever you watched me on. Thank you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Deadwalk, you know I love your guts. Thank you for doing what you do on all platforms, like holy shnikes. I appreciate it. I will see you guys Monday. We are going to be finishing Days Gone. We will be live on Twitch Monday at, I'm thinking I might even go live earlier on Monday. But anyways, Monday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, we will be finishing the video game Days Gone. If you want to check it out, twitch.tv/ReAnimateHer. And if you're watching me on YouTube as a VOD, make sure to hit that follow button. I love your guts, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend. And I will slash you all later. Bye.